sa.neter Studios. We don't get no better than us. Consciousness info. sa.neter TV 7. You keep it hot 24/7. You got that back for 102. sa.neter TV 2. Yeah.
You are now inside sa.neter Studios, the House of Consciousness production, Black News presentation. sa.neter.
All right. Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another sa.neter TV, House of Consciousness production. Y'all already know what it is. We got Sister Doctah up in the building. Some call her Too Sweet. And she gonna be in the building in a few minutes, dealing with some ancient new science. And it's gonna be confirmed by modern science. So without any further ado, I bring to you my sister Doctah Too Sweet in the building. What's going on, sis?
Hey, what's good, Elder Saw? Peace to you. Peace to everybody tuning in. Thank you again for having me. Looking forward to this discussion.
Of course. So what have you been researching lately?
Well, mostly in the personal side, I'm still researching psychology, neuroscience, neurobiology, and all of that. But what I want to talk about today is kind of related because it's tying in some ancient knowledge with new, with our modern science and how it all connects. And, I'm constantly just studying human behavior, the ancients, and all trying to tie it all into, what we know today.
Okay, that sounds good. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to you and let you do your thing.
Thank you. So again, peace to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to share this information with everyone. I have kind of discussed it before. I was on Sister Nepal's channel, the Rise channel. And one of the topics that we often discuss is ancient wisdom, right? There are some individuals who feel as though, modern science has it all figured out. We know everything. The ancients were primitive. They didn't know anything, all while recognizing some amazing things that they did, like the megaliths, the wisdom, the ancient teachings that still are here today, right? So today, what I'm going to be talking about is some ancient concepts from Egypt, Mesopotamia, Sumer, that have basically been confirmed by modern science today. I always say that science is catching up. Science is almost counterintuitive to where it's like we need so much proof and evidence to confirm something. And I just find it interesting that a lot of times we end up confirming what the ancients already knew, just maybe they said it in a different way or it was used in a different context, right? So it's going to be based on 5 truths that the Egyptians and Mesopotamians knew that is now being confirmed by modern science, right? So I wanted to ask you real quick, so have you heard about any of the information that's out there about our heart and how it has a huge electromagnetic field and things like that? Any ever heard of anything like that? No? Oh, you're on mute. I was asking you, but it's okay. I want to go ahead.
I've heard some things about it. Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's one of the things I'm going to talk about too, because there's so much focus on our brain, which is good, of course, right? Because it's one of our biggest organs. But a lot of people forget that science has confirmed also that we technically have 3 brains. That's our brain and our head, our heart, and our gut, right? Mm-hmm. These 3 brains work together to, give us our knowledge. So let me go ahead and pull up my screen. I want to just start off real quick. 1 second. Let's see. There we go. All right. Let me go to it. All right, here we go. Let me know when you could see it. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, your screen is up and ready to go.
Okay. And I kind of made a quick little thing, post talk with the good doc. That's what I consider this conversation. A lot of what we're gonna talk about today was kind of talked about before. So this is some of the post talk conversation, which just means after the fact. So 5 brutal truths the Egyptians and Mesopotamians knew about healing, performance, and creation, proven by neuroscience. Right? This is not just anybody saying anything. This is documented science. Right? So number one, your thoughts create your reality. I hear people say this all the time, but I don't think people really understand the brevity of this idea. Number two is the heart is the center of intelligence, right? Whereas we think the brain is the center of intelligence, we're going to talk about why the heart is the center of our intelligence. Three, fear blocks healing and flow. Fear is a powerful drug. You can get people to do a lot of things if they are under the guise of fear. Number four, everything is energetically connected. Again, another bit of ancient wisdom that modern science is proving. And finally, rituals and intention rewire your brain, right? All of this is connected. And let's go ahead and start with your thoughts shape your reality. So this is a study by Gene Destiny and D.H. Invar, where they talk about how brain structures participating in mental stimulation of motor behavior, a neuropsychological interpretation. This study went on to show that mental practice activates certain brain structures selectively, as shown by measurements of regional cerebral blood flow. It appears likely that this activation improves the subsequent control of execution of movements. What does this mean? Basically, in a nutshell, this study, which I would love for others to check out themselves, it's proving and showing that the way we think affects our reality. If you think bad things are going to happen, guess what? Usually bad things are going to happen. If you have a positive mental attitude, guess what? Positive things are going to happen. It has a lot to do with your perception. It has a lot to do with your actions as well. Because if you have a negative thought, 9 times out of 10, you're going to act on those negative thoughts, right? So you're just in this negative feedback loop, so to speak. So how does this tie into the ancients? Well, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth teach that the mind is the builder of worlds. I'm going to repeat that. The mind is the builder of worlds. Hermetic philosophy teaches that all is mind. In our modern day and age, neuroscientists have confirmed that mental imagery and focused thought activate the same neural circuits as real experiences. This to me is so profound just because it's letting us know that whatever you imagine, your brain and your body, your physiology does not know the difference of whether it's just you thinking it or whether it's actually happening to you. So it's very important to always have control of your mind and your thoughts, so that you don't, go into this negative feedback loop. Here's actually another, let me click on this. Hold on, I want to click on this real quick. So this is another study here that was done. Changes in brain activity during action, observation, and motor imagery, their relationship with motor learning. Anyone can pull this up. It's further research. They're going to give you other articles about the same idea. But all in all, these studies are showing us that our thoughts create our reality. That's what it's all leading to. And I know it's hard sometimes to think positive, or say you're in a messed up situation, it's hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel. But it's very important for people to do this, so that they can reach the outcome that they would prefer. So I went on to say, think about this for a moment and look over the research into this. This is clear cut proof that we create our reality. And I love talking about this experiment because it's further proof in science and physics that our thoughts create our reality. So the double slit experiment performed by Thomas Young in 1801, well, that was the initial experiment. It further leads credence to the idea that the world around us is a construct of our own making. Most people do not want to accept this fact and instead choose to live as victims of circumstance as opposed to being the captain of their own fate, right? It's easier to blame God. It's easier to blame the quote unquote devil. It's easier to blame other people as opposed to taking responsibility for your own life and things that are happening to and around you. Next, the heart is the center of intelligence. This one for me was like the biggest one because growing up in church and, reading the Bible, there's a verse in, I believe, Psalms that talks about how the heart is wicked and we should not follow our heart. And I always thought that was strange to me because, as a child, it's like, if God gave us a heart and it's leading us somewhere, why wouldn't we follow it, right? It didn't make sense to me. This study, which was published in Frontiers in Psychology, it talks about cardiac coherence, self-regulation, autonomic stability, and psychosocial well-being. In this article, the authors discuss the perspective that one's ability to self-regulate the quality of feeling and emotion of one's moment-to-moment experience is intimately tied to our physiology and the reciprocal interactions among physiological, cognitive, and emotional systems. And I'm reading slow just because I want people to understand, what's being said here. I'm not in the chat yet, but later, if anyone has questions or would like me to elaborate, I would love to. Because in general, it's saying that in those moments where you're maybe emotionally excited or you're angry or frustrated, it's very important to regulate your emotions because your heart is going to be affected. Like your decisions and things like that are going to be affected by your emotions. Got to be self-aware, got to pay attention to, what's going through your mind and heart. So how do we tie this to the ancients? Ancient Egyptians believed that the heart held the soul and directed judgment. Thanks to modern science, we now know that the heart has neural pathways and its own neural system that communicated with the brain, in turn influencing performance, intuition, and emotional resilience. Now, what struck me about this information here is that they discovered that the heart has neural pathways and a neural system just like our brain. So confirmed by modern science, your heart holds memory. Peer-reviewed studies have revealed that the heart contains an intrinsic neural network, emits a structured, coherent electromagnetic field, and demonstrates synaptic, like synapses in the brain, biochemical and geometric mechanisms for encoding information, meaning that everything that you experience while you're thinking that only your brain is processing this information, your heart is also processing that information. It's encoding it, meaning it's translating it and sending it through these neural pathways just the same way that your brain does. Comparable to memory centers in the brain, right? And in Frontiers in Neuroscience, researchers documented over 40,000 neurons embedded within the heart wall. It is the heart's intrinsic cardiac nervous system, or ICNS, and it is capable of sensory processing, short-term memory encoding, and bidirectional brain communication, meaning it's constantly communicating between brain and heart. I've seen so many memes about the struggle between your brain and your heart, like your brain wants to go one way and your heart wants to go another. So I thought that this information was very relative, especially in uh, this era of relationship podcasts, and people got all this information about what other people should do. It really just boils down to you listening to yourself. Um, Cardiac neurons express the same neurotransmitters as the brain, such as dopamine and norepinephrine. They learn, adapt, and remember. And I did go ahead and just cite that source here. Here's the DOI towards that. I can't wait to start taking questions or open the conversation about this, because I'm interested in how many people knew this or had some understanding of this as far as the heart mind connection. All right, let's go on to, I believe this is number 3 or 4. Okay, fear blocks healing and flow. What does that mean? It's pretty simple, right? It's that if you are operating out of fear, anxiety, stress, frustration, all these different things, you're not going to be able to process information properly, and it's actually going to block your healing. So stress signaling pathways that impair prefrontal cortex structure and function. For those who don't know, your prefrontal cortex is where you do your higher what's the word higher forms of processing is the only thing I can think of right now, right? That's where you decide, you make all your decisions, basically. So this study here by Amy Arnsten in the Natural Review of Neuroscience says the prefrontal cortex, the most evolved brain region, subserves our highest order, that's what I was looking for, highest order cognitive abilities, right? So it's basically telling you that our prefrontal cortex works for us when it comes to high order cognitive functions and decision making. It goes on to say, however, it is also the brain region that is the most sensitive to the detrimental effects of stress exposure. So although it is the most evolved part of our brain, it's also the most sensitive to the high cortisol, the stress, the fear, the anxiety. Because all fear really is high anxiety and stress, right? Fear of the unknown, or if you have a fear of heights, you get anxiety, or if you have a fear of public speaking, right? You can't catch your breath, you start sweating. All of this is fear. And this is why a lot of people have a fear of public speaking, because they experience these symptoms when it happens. So how does this tie into the ancients? Well, Egyptian and Mesopotamian teachings emphasized harmony, or ma'at, and energetic balance. Chronic fear hijacks the nervous system, impairs healing, and suppresses cognitive performance. At its root, fear is the absence of harmony and balance. Some fear moving to a new city or public speaking. Some people even fear dating or meeting new people. And below is another article. Repeated stress causes cognitive impairment by suppressing glutamate receptor expression and function in prefrontal cortex. Again, just basically saying that fear or anxiety or anything related is going to be detrimental to your high order cognitive abilities that is going on in that prefrontal cortex. Which again is so interesting to me, because like I said, the ancients knew that harmony was important. They knew that having balance was important. They knew that you couldn't operate out of fear and expect anything good to come out of it. All right. And real quick, I just wanted to talk about this topic called virtue signaling. For those who've never heard of the term, virtue signaling is the public expression of opinions or sentiments intended to demonstrate one's good character or social conscience, or the moral correctness of one's position on a particular issue. There's a great book called Grandstanding here up on the screen. It's the use and abuse of moral talk. The reason I wanted to kind of touch on this subject really quickly is because, so after my first appearance here on, the House of Consciousness, a lot of things transpired. And one thing that I noticed that people kept like saying to me or trying to get me to do was to do all this work of clearing up rumors, correcting false information, all this other stuff. And I chose not to do so because, number one, what other people think of you is none of your business, right? Especially if they don't know you. Number two, what this book and what Justin Tosi and Brandon Warmke argue is that a lot of times virtue signaling can have the opposite effect, right? It's like the more you try to prove that you're a good person, the more you actually look like you're not a good person. Because it's like, I don't know about anybody else, but my daddy always told me that anybody that over explains themselves is probably lying. So, in their book Grandstanding, they say that saying things in order to improve or protect your moral reputation has a range of bad consequences, and that as such, there is a strong moral presumption against engaging in it. Virtue signaling is based in fear. It's fear of negative public opinion. And another reason why I wanted to bring this up is because if you are steadfast in who you are, what you do, and what you're about, it's unnecessary to clear up rumors or try to convince people of anything, because people are going to judge you. There's this negativity bias that humans naturally have. And it's just a waste of time to try to clear up any of that, right? So it's all out of fear. And once you do away with the fear, you realize that virtue signaling is unnecessary. You don't have to prove that you're a good person or a bad person, because some people do that too. They want you to believe that, there's some badass or whatever, and it's unnecessary. So, and here we go to everything is energetically connected. Now, I thought this was pretty self-explanatory, but think about what modern science says about quantum physics, quantum entanglement, the string theory, how everything, even if separated by mass distances, right, is still going to be energetically connected. And this study here is a unifying view of the basis of social cognition. In this article, they provide a unifying neural hypothesis on how individuals understand the actions and emotions of others. Now, this is relative to how everything is energetically connected, because it talks about how your emotions, your energy, your thoughts are definitely going to not only affect you, but they're going to affect the world around you, your environment. They're going to affect the people that you interact with, right? That's why it's important to protect your energy, to protect your peace. There are energy vampires out there who will do any and everything that they can to rob you of your energy. And it's important to just protect yourself from that. So how does everything is energetically connected tie into what the ancients knew? Well, Mesopotamian mysticism and Egyptian wisdom taught that we are a part of an interwoven energetic field. Think Akashic records or collective conscious, but also quantum entanglement or string theory, as I mentioned. Modern neuroscience confirms this with mirror neurons, which, and I meant to put a link up for that, right? Because I know everybody might not be familiar with that. So mirror neurons are something like, say if you and I meet for the first time, right, and we're getting to know each other, neurons in your biochemistry will start to mimic or mirror neurons in that person who I'm communicating with, or whoever's, in my space, right? That's why there's that saying, attention, is it energy goes where attention flows? It literally does. So with mirror neurons and quantum resonance, which is just how energy propagates on a quantum level. Propagates just mean how it spreads, right? So mirror neurons and quantum resonance showing that your energy absolutely affects others as well as the environment instantly. I know many of us have walked into a room and the vibe was off, or we met somebody and we didn't like them and we couldn't understand why we don't like them, or somebody else walks into a room and the energy shifts. This is what neuroscience is confirming, is that our energy is connected, and that goes for everyone. And it's very important that we are aware of this So for our own personal self, but also so we can be aware of how we're affecting those around us. For those who care, because I know there's some people who just really don't care. But for those who have emotional maturity, you want to be aware of how you're affecting other people or how your energy is shifting the energy in a room. It should be for good, right? But if you walk into a room and your energy shifts it to like a negative vibe or whatever the case may be, you may want to check yourself and figure out why that is. I think this is my okay, yeah, no, this is number 5. Okay, last one. Rituals and intentions rewire your brain for creation. So this study here, it talks about how attention regulation, or it talks about attention regulation and monitoring in meditation, which is interesting because, there's people who feel like meditation and mental imagery and all these things are quote unquote pseudo or not real. We know better, right? For those of us who are actual scientists, we know better. There's so many studies done on meditation, on yoga, on lucid dreaming, on all these different things. This was published in Trends in Cognitive Science, and the article explores initial findings and the implications of neuroscientific research on meditation. Why is neuroscience interested in meditation? Well, that is because when scientists hook up a person to the EEG, right, that's going to record brain activity, what they found is that in deep states of meditation, your brain waves change, right? There's the alpha, beta, theta, and all these different what do you call it, states that your brain can be in. And meditation actually takes us into is it theta? Yeah, it takes us into that deep meditative state. So, and again, how does this connect to the ancients? Well, from sacred symbols to daily rituals, Egyptians mastered energy alignment. Neuroscience now proves that intentional, repeated behavior shapes the brain through neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of your brain to soak in and retain new information. So, let me read that again. So, neuroscience now proves that intentional, repeated behavior reshapes the brain through neuroplasticity, optimizing performance and mental healing. So if you're someone who has a dedicated routine, right? Like you wake up every day, you say, okay, I'm going to learn 3 things today, right? It's training your brain that every single day that you're alive, your brain is going to be looking for at least 3 things to learn, to gain knowledge on. It's these repeated behaviors. I've talked about that before, the cognitive behavioral therapy. It's about learning how to train your brain to look at tasks in a certain way so that you can change your behavior. And the fact that the ancients understood the importance of rituals, the importance of daily divination, if you will, it just leads, again, credence to the fact that they knew more than we give them credit for. And hold on, let me go back. Okay, so that was basically the whole of my presentation. I didn't want to go too long talking because I know people have questions. I know they want to discuss and all this other stuff. So yeah, did you have any questions, Sa, or was there anything that jumped out at you or was interesting that you thought?
No, not me, but I see my man Daniel Allah in the building. He's a scientist, Israelite. Maybe he has a question. The link is in the chat, family.
Yeah, because I didn't see none of the chat while I was doing that. I didn't want to get sidetracked.
Or brain wave energy signals. Is this brain training or brain wave energy channel? Science signals, I mean. My bad.
Oh, I see the question. Is this brain training or brain wave energy signals?
Yeah.
I don't I'm not really understanding the question, because if you're talking
Right.
about brain training, you're talking about something that you're the cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Where you're training your brain to operate in a certain way. Brain wave energy signals is just recording the energy output of your brain. So I don't know. I don't understand your question.
All
Maybe
right.
you could reframe the question, Moises. But thank you for your question.
Yeah, family. If y'all have any questions, come on in. The link is in the chat.
And I see someone is asking frequency ranges. Are you asking like the different frequencies of our brain waves, like alpha and theta and stuff like that? Is that what you're talking about? There's analysis of assessment. Okay, so Solar Sapien is saying, I didn't even want to bring up the CIA because they got so many files on this stuff. It's crazy. He says the CIA's analysis and assessment of the Gateway Process report, declassified in 2003, explored the possibility of inducing altered states of consciousness to potentially transcend space and time. A lot of studies on that, even studies on DMT and psilocybin, right? There's so many studies where they've recorded that people who are doing DMT and psilocybin are in these transcendental states. Their brain syncs to people around them. Like it's almost like they become a hive mind or something, because all the separation between us as individuals, it goes away. And I don't know if everybody knows what DMT is, but it's a chemical that your body produces in very, very, very tiny amounts. There's even some released at the moment of your death, which is, doctors think that's why some people have these near death experiences, because of the release of DMT. But you know, there's a lot of research. They're still trying to figure it out. But let me see. I'm just reading. Oh, Solar Sapien is adding a lot of information. Thank you for dropping these little nuggets here for people to research for themselves. I'm here to present this information, but of course, as always, you want to do your own research, your own investigation. Um, so Ernest Parker, he was saying, you was asking for clarity about what though?
Yo, come on in and hit the link. Y'all can ask us straight up.
Yeah, you can come talk to me. I don't
Hit the
bite. I
link, man.
promise. And I love talking about these topics because it's so interesting, because I'm an advocate for the ancients were wise. They knew way more than we give them credit for. Modern humans try to pretend that we're the apex of intelligence. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I think that a lot of the ancient wisdom is taken for granted. A lot of it is put in that pseudo box, whereas modern science is now confirming a lot of what they were saying. So it's not pseudo at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, remote viewing. The CIA had a whole project for this to test out remote viewing. Now, if you read the report, it'll say the findings are inconclusive. But what I found in the scientific community is a lot of times when there's information that confounds the scientific community, just like the pseudo box, they'll just throw it in the inconclusive box, right? Like, oh, we don't know what it is. We can't really, explain it. So we're just going to put it over here for now. But people are more than welcome to do their own research into that. And so I think who was that? Ernest Parker was asking about the different brain waves. So you have delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Delta is the slowest, and that's the one. Hold on, is that the one when you're? I should have put that in my presentation. So delta is the one for like when you're asleep, when you have the minimum brain activity. The highest, where it's the higher functions, is the gamma. It goes from delta to theta to alpha to beta to gamma. If that's what you were asking. What do you say? If children were not as intelligent as the parents, we would be failures. That is a theory. If I miss any questions, y'all can type them again. I don't know. Nobody's coming up. They're gonna wait until the riffraff get here or what? I don't know. But
They scared of the science talk. I think they looking for Hebrews and stuff like that. They don't. Yeah, that's what they want. They looking for the
right,
Hebrews and the arguments. So
they want the Jerry Springer, and I get it. You know, it's entertaining, but the community loves to talk about sharing knowledge and spreading knowledge. So we have an opportunity to get that right here and other chances. So why not focus on the knowledge instead of like all the drama, because that gets us nowhere. We're supposed to be building, we're supposed to be uplifting, we're supposed to be educating one another. So I would hope that intelligent conversation comes in. Hey,
what's up, man? What's up? We can't hear you. You're muted.
there you
All right, how
go.
about now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah, I seen nobody was jumping in. I came in a little late, but I'm kind of into this. So are you going into like the brains having an energy and like the neurons transmitting within itself, or can it transmit outside of the brain, as a collective?
Well, so the energy, of course, is what travels, right? That's what the one of the slides that talked about quantum resonance. And so the energy is going to propagate, but not the neurons, right? The neurons is inside of you. That's part of your physiology. But the energy from those neurons, from your brain activity, that's what is being spread out to others around you. And if you didn't know, your heart has a larger electromagnetic signature than your brain. So when you step into a room, people feel your heart energy before they feel your thoughts, which I think is amazing, because we've all had that experience where we walk into a room, we don't like the vibe, or we don't like somebody, or you know what I'm saying, we just ain't clicking. So yeah, it's really just a transfer of energy.
With that being said, because I know like the Buddhists, whatever, they'll you can some people talk about praying for peace, or the Buddhists can like praying and meditation and a
Yeah.
peace state of mind. Can you apply this to like spirituality? Like, is energy alive, and can the energy be a sense of a radio frequency that stays in the atmosphere or stays living?
Well, one could argue that, I would think, because the first law of thermodynamics tells us that energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? It's just transferred. So when you are outputting any information or energy, it's going somewhere, and it's gonna just keep propagating ad infinitum, I guess, because if energy can't be created or destroyed, it's just gonna constantly be moving or transferring form.
Does it
I
have a
think that's what
memory?
you're asking.
Yeah,
Does
in a
what?
sense. That particular energy with the heart and the brain combined, would that
Mm-hmm.
energy kind of like continue to exist outside of the physical form?
I don't see why it wouldn't. Because at the end of the day, think about it like a photon of light, right? That photon is going to travel uh, infinitely. It's going to bounce off of this, then it's going to go over here and bounce off of this. You know what I mean? It's going to keep going until the end of time. So I think that in any energy that we put out is just is going to propagate infinitely. And I think that's why there's those adages that say like what goes around comes around, right? You want to treat people how you want to be treated because it might come back to you. I feel that the ancients had these sayings because they had some understanding of how energy works.
So would you go like not go into, but would you kind of say that it will relate with the stars itself, sending energy to us as well?
I mean, now getting into that, it would be borderline well, it would be metaphysical at that point, because there hasn't been definitive proof that energy from distant stars are directly affecting us. Now, if you're a person who practices astrology, right?
Yeah, that's
You're
what
going,
yeah.
yeah, you're going to say that, yeah, me personally, I'm not saying science agrees to this because yes, astrology is still considered a pseudoscience, but me personally, if you're telling me that energy is neither created or destroyed, and these distant stars are putting out energy, where is it going? It's going to travel infinitely, right? It's never going to stop. So who's to say that that energy isn't traveling to us, even in the minutest, detail? Maybe science will finally admit that astrology is, spot on. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not. I follow this stuff.
Hold on
Yeah.
for a minute, brother. Let me ask you this question. What's the difference between consciousness and knowledge?
Me? Okay.
Well, I think, were you asking me or him?
You, I'm asking you.
Okay. Okay. So here's the thing, right? So consciousness is is really your ability to absorb said knowledge. So I would posit that consciousness is a tool for you to be able to retain knowledge and as well as share it and convey it. There's a lot of arguments about what consciousness is, where it comes from, where does it go, is the mind the same thing as the brain, all these different things. But if you really look at it though, how we without consciousness, how would we even gauge any knowledge or retain it at all? Because it takes our brain to hear something or read something, process it, and then decide how it pertains to us or our world around us or whatever like that. So I think the difference is consciousness is the tool that allows us to gain knowledge. Put it
Right.
like that.
Yes, consciousness is the state of being aware of oneself and
Hmm.
surroundings, right? Thoughts, feelings, and perceptions.
Right.
On the other hand, knowledge, see, I typed it up before I asked you, because I was thinking about that. I was like, yo, so what's the difference between the two? And I know that the nation of gods and earth sees that knowledge is to know the ledge before you fall off the edge. But
Yeah,
knowledge,
that wordplay.
on the other hand, is possession of facts, understanding, and skills, acquiring thought, experiencing, education, or observation. That's the
Right.
knowledge. You see,
Yes.
they both goes hand in hand when you really look at it.
I agree. I agree. And
One
so,
can't exist without the other. I think, like when you gain that consciousness, you automatically gonna gain that knowledge as well with it. One
yeah,
goes hand.
because like
You look at the breakdown.
uh, a lot of people are mentioning how consciousness is your awareness. I was just trying to define it in my own words, but at its basic level, that's really what it is. And like you said, Elder Saw, is that they kind of go hand in hand because if you're not conscious, how can you gain knowledge, right? Like, I mean, and that makes me think about because a lot of we like to separate ourselves from animals, and we like to think that animals are not self-aware
I
or
was,
aka conscious.
I was getting ready to go there. I was,
Okay, I got you. See, yeah,
yeah, I was going to ask you, what about the bugs and the ants and the animals? Because they
so
are also conscious.
exactly, it's just a different level, right? Because there's levels to everything. So think about ants, right? If you've ever watched ants work, they had to gain knowledge to do the things that they do, whether it was encoded in their DNA, whether it was from observing, other ants or the biochemical signatures, whatever the case may be. They had to have some type of consciousness to be able to build an ant hill or go forage for food or bring the food back to so yeah, they definitely have consciousness. It's just a different level.
Right. Go ahead, Moise. Moise.
Go ahead.
With everything that we said, would you believe that there might be Akashic records, like a memory bank on all these energy being like stored? Is it linear, or can we tap into future conscious levels based on the collective,
Right. Right.
brain waves and stuff like that.
Right. So again, just my personal opinion is that how can you tell me that energy is neither created or destroyed, but then also tell me that there's no collective consciousness that we all can somehow tap into? And the reason I'm a proponent for collective consciousness is I was watching a documentary about this very topic one time, and they were saying how, let's say you have a random idea, a creative idea, like you invent something, right? Someone clear across the world has never met you, never talked to you, never seen your work or anything, could literally be having the exact same idea or invention. Where is that coming from? Right? Like if there's not a collective consciousness that we can all tap into at some point, how do people get the same exact ideas? And I was trying to think, I think something similar happened with Tesla. Like, even when like Tesla and Edison were going at it, it was like, where are they getting these ideas from? And especially when they're so similar, it's like there has to be a collective consciousness for them to tap into. Like, and there's even scientific studies done on that because they're trying to figure out the scientific aspect of it, which is the quantum entanglement, the spooky entanglement, right? Where all they're saying is that, like, me, Moises, and Elder Sa, we're on this live right now. We're energetically connected, even though we're separated by hundreds or thousands of miles, right? Just how Sa was like, oh, I was about to go there about the animals, but I started talking about it. Like, that for me is proof that there is something to that, right? I don't want to call it the Akashic records because there's like religious implications tied to that, but I'll call it the collective conscious. All our brain waves, all our brain energy, all our heart energy, all of that is going into the quote unquote ether. And who's to say that we can't, interact with it or gain information from that? Yeah, Solar, come on in, bruh.
Well, it's like the study with the monkeys cleaning the banana or something like that. What was that whole thing where it's across the world or whatever? I don't know
the
about that
100th
study, but I
monkey.
heard of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is such a good study. For anybody watching, look into the 100th monkey experiment. And what that experiment was that scientists noticed, I think, was it macaques? It was some type of monkey or something. What they would start doing is they would go and wash their yams. I think it was yams before they ate it. And only a few of them were doing this at first, right? It was kind of like a one-off. But what scientists realized is that after the 100th monkey started doing it, it spread like wildfire. It was like 1 minute, it was only like 5 or 6 of them doing it. Then when it got to that 100th monkey, it's like it just, the floodgates were open. And I used to always refer to that experiment because I think it leads, it tells us a lot about human behavior, right? Because humans we're creatures of, what's a good word? I don't want to say repetitiveness, but we're creatures of ritual. Let's put it like that, right? So if I, as a person, see somebody doing something that is getting them a positive result, I'm naturally going to be like, okay, it's working for them. Maybe I should try it and it'll work for me. And it'll go from like one person to the next person to the next person until now you have everybody doing it. That's how we get trends. That's how we get these, there was this thing on Facebook at one point where everybody was turning their image into a Muppet. It's like that. It's like one person did it, then 10 people did it, and then 100 people did it. Now everybody's doing it. It's like that. So, yeah.
Well, I'm interested. I'm going to listen in the chat. So.
Yeah, thank you for joining, Moises. Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing up the 100th monkey too. That was a good one.
Leave these Hebrews alone, man. He like banging on them too.
No, right. I get it.
Anybody else? What's going on? Anybody else have any questions? If not, I'm gonna have my sister just close us out. That's it.
Right. y'all be acting like y'all scared or something until I guess they waiting for their homies so they can have backup or something. I don't know. Or maybe all of this is just new, so new to some people
Yeah.
that they don't really have any input. Maybe they can go research it for themselves, get more information, and maybe after the fact have some questions. Who was it? Solar
Hmm.
Sapien asked, "Is consciousness internal or external?"
No. Listen,
Oh,
don't answer them. Don't answer them.
they got to
Make
come up.
that. Yeah. Don't even answer their questions because they're afraid to come in. All right. So yeah, that's it. So I want to say to you, my sister, thank you. I appreciate you. And maybe you and Nepal might do something later on today.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna come on for a
Yeah, I
second.
thought
Hey, Sakina, I see you, girl.
yeah, Nepal is driving right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
I spoke to her just now on the phone and she's driving. So she's trying to get somewhere. So I'm gonna have
Yeah,
you close us out and y'all might get together later on. That's why I wanted to just do this early and get this out the
yeah.
way. All right.
No, I appreciate it. So yeah, I want to thank everybody who tuned in. Thank you, Edisa, for this opportunity to just talk about stuff that I'm very interested in. I am very passionate. I know there was a whole controversy about me being a scientist. I am a scientist. I study science. Very soon, my titles will be DS for my bachelor's, MS for my master's, and PsyD for my doctorate. So
Yeah, I don't know
that,
why the big controversy of you being a scientist.
well, because there's some people who feel like they are the gatekeepers.
Yeah,
Yeah, they feel like they the gatekeepers, and everybody, if they gonna talk about science, they gotta go through them. And I'm not gonna mention who it is because no free promotion over here. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, science is something. It's just a tool. It's a tool for us to understand the world around us. Anybody can do science. Anybody can be a scientist. Anybody can have a respect for science. I happen to be one of those people. I know you are. You always are looking for the information to spread. I look forward to more discussions about this. If you guys have questions later, you can look from my Facebook page, I guess. It's just Dr. Two Sweets. And yeah, y'all just, stay focused on spreading knowledge, sharing knowledge, and uplifting and edifying yourself. Spread love at always, but be ready for war also if necessary. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the day.
all right. And with that, peace and black power, everybody. We out. Thank
Peace.
you, Dr. Too Sweet.